If I told you that Napoleon Bonaparte was once genuinely attacked and forced into retreat by a horde of hungry bunny rabbits, no doubt you'd think me mad and spouting some kind of ridiculous propaganda that was made against Napoleon back in the day by his enemies. But no, this event genuinely happened, and in this short history I'm going to tell you all the details. However, before I do, first you've got to remember to subscribe to my channel. Paul Thiébault was one of Napoleon's top generals, and in his memoirs he recounted a most phenomenal of stories, and it goes like this. It's July 1807 and Napoleon, one of history's greatest military tacticians, has just had one of his greatest victories, which has been cemented through the signing of the treaties of Tilsit. These were two treaties, one signed with Imperial Russia, which ended Napoleon's war with the Russians on favourable terms for him, and the other was with Prussia, which saw Napoleon gain half of Prussia's land. So yeah, it was a good day for Napoleon, and needless to say, he was extremely happy, and this led him to want to celebrate. And so the story goes that his chief of staff, a man called Alexander Berthier, who had just been given the title Prince of Neuchâtel, invited him to a rabbit hunt in a park that he owned in Paris so that they could celebrate. And the key to this rather crazy story is what happened next. You see, Berthier had everything he needed for this hunt bar one thing: rabbits. To rectify this, he instructed his emissary to round up a horde of rabbits, which he did, rounding up somewhere between 1,000 and 3,000, all of which were put into cages on the day at the edge of a grassy field in Berthier's park. Now, this is where things get really interesting. You see, after breakfast, Napoleon and his entourage, which included many high-ranking generals, Thiébault amongst them, headed out to this field in preparation for the hunt. All that was needed was for the rabbits to be released. However, unbeknownst to Napoleon and his entourage, these were not wild rabbits. They were tame rabbits. Berthier's emissary, who had not known there was a difference in the behaviors between wild rabbits and tame rabbits, had purchased them from local farmers, which of course was a big mistake. To explain why, wild rabbits run from humans. Tame rabbits, on the other hand, associate humans with food and so are not afraid of them. And these tame rabbits, having been locked in their cages for a day, had not eaten for a day and so were starving. The result of this accumulation of factors was something quite extraordinary. You see, when released, despite at first running around wildly in all directions, the rabbits all of a sudden converged into one giant mass and started charging towards Napoleon and his entourage. Thiébault wrote that to the rabbits, the emperor had in effect transformed into a giant head of lettuce, and needless to say, this was not a good thing, which led Berthier to immediately and rather angrily organize his coachmen into a line with them using their riding whips to repel the onslaught. And at first these tactics worked, sending the rabbits into retreat, but then they regrouped, about turned and flanked the hunting party from both the left and the right. And what happened next is best described in Thiébault's own words. He wrote that the intrepid rabbits turned the emperor's flank, attacked him frantically in the rear, refused to quit their hold, piled themselves up between his legs till they made him stagger, and forced the conqueror of conquerors, fairly exhausted, to retreat and leave them in possession of the field, which means, yep, Napoleon was forced into retreat by bunny rabbits. He apparently even tried to use his riding stick to shoo them away, but it was fruitless. His men couldn't even get shots off with their guns. The attack was so unrelenting. And the crazy thing is, even once Napoleon made it back into his imperial carriage, the attack still did not relent. Historian David Chandler wrote, with a finer understanding of Napoleonic strategy than most of his generals, the rabbit horde divided into two wings and poured around the flanks of the party and headed for the imperial coach where Napoleon sat. And they reached it as well, desperately trying to climb into it, with Napoleon having to fight them off. Literally, only once the carriage had picked up speed did Napoleon escape. And if you're wondering how Napoleon took being defeated by a horde of bunny rabbits, it was reportedly in good spirits, with Thiébault writing that much laughter had been elicited from the revelation about the rabbits being tame and seeking food. So unlike popular belief, Napoleon didn't suffer from short man syndrome as much as people like to think. That's all from me. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, remember to give it a like and subscribe to my channel, because the more who do so, the more of these short histories I can make. Is that a good bribe? I hope it is. I'll see you next time.